he has many compositions, and he played the clarinet and alto saxophone. And Mingus was also a part of the band. And that band, Duke Ellington, was a personality of the time. You know, he wore a top hat. He always had a bow tie, a black tie. He spoke with erudition, a very sophisticated personality, most unlike the other jazz musicians of that time. A ladies' man, and he had all the attributes of a perfect gentleman, even his language and his English, which was very different from, and of course his music was outstanding. So Ellington was his boss, and it so happened that Joan Tissot, when they were rehearsing, told Mingus that you're playing too high, you should be playing up, not down. And he said, no, I like to play down. So he said, look, I've given you the score, and the score says you have to play up, so you better play up. And I don't care, the score, I'm going to play. So Tissot says, this is the trouble with all you blacks. You can't read music, you can only play. To which Mingus erupted. He erupted to the extent that he took his bass and reportedly jumped over the piano with his bass. And Mingus was a big man, so he started running after Tissot. And Tissot ran out, and Mingus ran after him. In the process, he created an enormous amount of commotion in the hall. And Ellington was a man who, being his personality, what it was, didn't tolerate all this nonsense. So he decided to sack Mingus, just sack him. And it's reported that Ellington never sacked anybody. He survived the depression and the downturns in music. He continued to employ his people, pay them, because he was a man of principles and character. And he had never sacked anybody. He kept them on. Maybe he didn't make them play, but he kept them. But he decided to sack Mingus for that incident. And according to Mingus himself, after that incident, this is what Ellington says. He says, now Charles, he says, looking amused, putting Cartier links into the cuffs of his beautiful handmade shirt. You could have forewarned me. You left me out of the act entirely. At least you would have let me cue in a few chords as you ran through that Nijinsky routine. I congratulate you on your performance, but why didn't you and Johan inform me about the adagio you planned so that we could score it? I must say, I never saw a large man so agile, and never saw anybody make such tremendous leaps. The gambado over the piano carrying your bass was colossal. So that was Ellington in his element. So, having said that, poor Mingus had to leave Ellington, but his regard for Ellington was enormous till his death. He thought he was God. And knowing his leadership qualities, he felt that all these record producers were milking the musicians, taking enormous cuts, which is happening even today. All the middlemen, they take the biggest cuts, and the musicians only collect the leftovers. So, given that scenario, he decided to form his own recording company called Debut Records, along with Max Roach, who was a famous drummer of that time. And all of them decided to have their first concert published under Debut Records in Toronto at a place called Massey Hall with Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Max Roach. It was a historic recording of Debut Records for the first time. He also started, to avoid exploitation of the musicians. He got all of them together in a jazz workshop, and he said, look, I'll employ you. If you're short of gigs, I'll employ you, but you have to play my music, my compositions, which they all agreed to because at least they get paid. So he formed a collective of about 20 odd musicians whom he used throughout his recordings in the 50s and later on in the 60s. And therefore, his recordings from 50s, 60s, 70s, till he passed away, I mean, before he passed away, he had stopped recording, but just a year before he passed away, Joni Mitchell, you know Joni Mitchell, all of you, she was a great admirer of Mingus, and the last recording which Mingus made was with Joni Mitchell in 78. He passed away in 79. And that's why it says 30 years, 50s, 60s, 70s. And the recording company he started was sold. Well, not sold. His wife decided to divorce him. She couldn't stand this guy, his personality and his attitude, his behavior was very difficult. So she found somebody else and decided to divorce him. Now what could Mingus do? Mingus decided to give the debut recording company as a wedding gift to his wife so that she could go away with some money that was her. So that's what happened. This is that famous recording of debut with the quintet with Dizzy Gillespie, Max Roach, which today gathered Massey Hall. It's a tremendous recording. It's live and it's a very popular album. Yeah, so that's about Mingus as a person. So we'll now come to having an overview of his personality, his character, and all that goes with that great man. We'll come to his first major release, that was in 1956, and he called it Pithecanthropus erectus. Pithecanthropus erectus. Now, Shashi, you know what it means, right? You don't? Okay. What it means simply is the ape man on two legs. The development of man from ape status, four-legged mammal, gradually going to a two-legged mammal. Okay. Now, from the two-legged mammal, the development of the human being starts getting a brain. Okay. Once he starts getting a brain, he gets intelligence. Once he gets intelligence, he realizes there are things which he wants. He wants to make his life better. So he starts doing things, acquiring, and he starts enjoying all that he gets. Once he starts enjoying all that he gets, he becomes a little greedy. Then he wants more. And so the human being develops to the stage of need for acquisitions, self-aggrandizement, and so on and so forth. And that causes, between human beings, it causes battles and war and so on and so forth. And thereafter, there is decline and destruction. So you have those four steps: evolution, superiority, he's superior to the animals, his decline, and his destruction. So back in 56, he realized this is what's going to happen. And he decided to make a composition out of it, and we are going to play it.
This didn't come out of this flirting with the Vedanta.
It's in four parts. We'll play a part of it.
This is critical over syrup.
Yeah. I hope we someday get a better app which can take multiple inputs and not come out like this. Okay, so you can see the feelings expressed with the wailing of the arms. You know, the wailing, the expression which they're trying to convey that it's not very good. Okay, we'll move on from his first recording. Now, the context of this recording has to be seen because at that time a lot of the music was swing and happy music. And certainly this kind of thing comes along which makes you wonder. And then you see his album and what it says, what it's all about. So it becomes a very different kind of music compared to what was being published at that time. Mingus was known for his quotes. You know, whenever he was spoken to in conversation, he would always say something which was rather profound. And there are quite a few of his quotes which have become very well known today. And one of them here: creativity is more than just being different. Anyone can plan weird. That's easy. What's hard to be as simple as Bach, making the simple awesomely simple, that's creativity. up as quotes, which has been widely used when many people later on try to be different and try to produce music merely by trying to be different, which according to him was not creativity. So let's go on. Yeah, I mentioned about Mingus doing this album of the clown, and the reason he did it, he said that a clown, everybody laughs at him, but actually he's a very sad man. He's had deprived circumstances. Many of the time, a lot of these clowns have had pathetic lives, and they try to make all the children happy while they themselves are not sad. And he talks about the time when the clown clowns around in the circus, and then he shoots himself and people laugh because he does that. So that prompted him to make this album. And people said that, after that earlier album, Peter Pantrobus, that your music doesn't swing. So he said, okay, I'll make some music which will swing. So some of these some of the songs here are in a swinging mode. The Clown is not, whereas the first two are. The first song which we play is the Haitian fight song. The Haitian fight song was inspired by the rebellion in Haiti. Before Haiti became a republic and what it is today, there was a lot of chaos in that country with some overlords ruling all those poor people and exploiting them. And finally there was a rebellion, and all those overlords were thrown out, and Haiti became sort of a democratic country. And he was inspired by that fight, and he calls that music Haitian fight song. We'll play that.
Still on this. One side you have the government go vacation. The other side Very cool train. Sorry, feel the sound, sheets of it. The cool train, not broken.
That element of sadness.
Is there?
Yeah.
The melancholic undertone.
Who was the person of this film? Because
Man, there was this clown. And he was a real happy guy, a real happy guy. He had all these greens, all these yellows, all these oranges bubbling around inside him. And he had just one thing he wanted in this world. He just wanted to make people laugh. That's all he wanted out of this world. He was a real happy guy. Let me tell you about this clown. He used to raise a sweat every night out on that stage. He just wouldn't stop. That's how hard he worked. He was trying to make people laugh. He used to have this cute little gimmick where he had a seal follow him up and down a stepladder, blowing Columbia, the gem of the ocean, on a B-flat Sears rope of Model 1322A plastic bugle. A real cute act. But they didn't like it. Oh, you know, a few little things here and there, but not really. And he was working out in all these tank towns, playing the Rotary Club, and the Kiwanis Club, and the American Legion Hall. And he just wasn't making it. And he had all these wonderful things going on inside him, all these greens and yellows and all these oranges. He's a real happy guy. And all he wanted to do was to make people laugh. That's all he wanted out of this world, was to make people laugh. And something began to grow. Something just wasn't good began to grow inside of this guy. You know, it's a funny thing. There's something beginning to trouble this clown. You know, little things. Little things once in a while would happen that would make that crowd begin to move. But they were never the right things. Like, for example, the time the seal got sick on the stage. All over the stage, the crowd just broke up. Little things like that. And they weren't supposed to be in the act. And they weren't supposed to be funny. This began to trouble. Began to bother. This little thing began to grow inside. All those greens and all those oranges, all those yellows. They just weren't as bright as they used to be. And all he wanted to do was to make that crowd laugh. That's all.
The narration there is by the person John Shepherd, who wrote the story about the clown, and excerpts from the story are read by him to the accompaniment of the music. Essentially, it's about how the life of a clown is depicted in the story. Again, that element of sadness and the fact that people don't realize what he is. They only see the clown in front and they don't understand what goes behind. Yeah, so we'll move on. And as earlier, anyone can make the simple complicated. Creativity is making the complicated simple. Yeah. Now we come to Mingus' iconic album, which was produced soon after, produced in 58 but released in 59. And this one is called Aham, and people asked why Aham. And the answer was that whenever he's asked a question, which many people tend to do, they do and then they answer so they titled it that way. And again, this is a case of Mingus incorporating blues and gospel, classical music, all filtered through his own unique style, with the undercurrent of blues. And it's also the social and political commentary in it. Innovative, influential, genre bending, very different from all the other music which came out at that time. And a fusion of various styles, creating a unique sound. All this which I've put down there is by critics at various points of Mingus' career. And they are complex compositions. As I said, it's not easy to appreciate them the first time you listen. Especially, we need a far better sound system, and then maybe you'll be able to appreciate it better. Rhythmic complexities and harmony. So we'll go on. Next slide. There are 5 tracks. And as I said, it exhibits a range of emotions: joy, exuberance, sadness, anger, etc. And this had, elements of Mingus' music, had influence on a lot of other generations of jazz musicians. Their compositions reflect a lot of what Mingus had tried to incorporate in his own music. And he was nominated five Grammys, got 5-star reviews. This album is now in the Library of Congress in the US. They belatedly realized that this is their own art form and they need to preserve it. So they got all this stuff together from the worlds from different parts of the country and appropriated it for a general sum of money, and it's all deposited there. So there are these 4 songs which we will play, and I want to tell you about them before we keep disconnecting and connecting the mic. The second song is called Goodbye Popeye Hat. Now, anybody can say who's Popeye Hat? Anyone? No. Okay. There was great in that photograph I showed you right in the beginning, which I missed to point out. There was a great tenor saxophone player called Lester Young. Lester Young was like Jolly Papa on alto. Lester Young on tenor was a musician who was later emulated by several other people. You'll find Lester Young's sound in a lot of other tenor saxophone players who came on. Now, Lester Young wore a hat which is called a Popeye hat. Now, Popeye hat is flat at the top, and when you see it from the top, it's a bit of a heart-shaped, like a pork pie. A heart-shaped top with a flat. And he usually wore that hat, and nobody else wore it. So he was called Mr. Popeye Hat. And when he passed away, this composition for him. And this is one composition of which, this is one video which is available on live, because there are a few Mingus videos on YouTube which you can see live. Most of it is from Europe, not from the US. From the US there's nothing. And this is from the album Live in Montreux. We have a DVD, but we don't have a DVD player, so we'll have to use the YouTube link for it. So that's the second one. The third one is Better Get It in Your Soul, where he was told that your music needs to be a little more soulful. So there are a lot of elements of gospel here. Better Get It in Your Soul. And the next one is Self-Portrait in 3 colors, because he realized that he was a complex personality himself. He knew that he was a complex person. So he saw that there are 3 sides of me, and he tried to portray 3 sides of him in his own composition. And the last one, which is again a video, but this is a video taken from the archives, documentary archives. Now this video has pretty historical significance from the American history point of view. Now, as you know, America was a highly segregated country. The racism was to the extreme. There are a lot of books on the jazz musicians about how they faced racism, and those books make you cry when you realize that there was so much discrimination to the extreme. It's difficult to believe that such things could have happened not so long ago, just 60 years ago, even when we were alive. And this is about a guy called Forbes. Forbes was a governor in one of the southern states, and the Supreme Court had ordered that there should be integration of schools. There should be integration of schools. Black children and the white children should be in the same class, same school, no segregation. Now the governor, the United States democracy is such that states can defy Supreme Court laws. It's a loose federation. So many of the states have defied laws in the past. So the governor of that state, Arkansas, he said nothing doing, I don't care. not going to integrate. Segregation in my state remains. And the black children were accompanied by their parents to go into the school where they were supposed to go, that is, along with the white children. Forbes organized some, these police with arms. He called the National Guard, and when he called them, there was, of course, a protest, peaceful protest. But in the like what happens in sometimes, there's someone who provocates, and then there is a charge, and then there is violence, and then there's attacks. And in the end, a lot of innocent people got beaten up very badly, all because children have to be integrated. So Mingus wrote a song on that called Fables of Forbes. Fables because he was defying the truth. And that song was published with lyrics. He's written the lyrics for it. And Atlantic, that is the record producer, they got scared. They said, we can't produce these lyrics, we are going to get into trouble with the government. So you eliminate those lyrics. So it came out as an instrumental piece, and it was published without the lyrics, which was considered offensive to the government. And after it was published, it became like it happened in all the music of that time, it became the copyright and the possession of the record company. So they had all the rights over it. And Mingus was very upset that the lyrics were not there, because the heart and soul of the song was in the lyrics. So he decided to publish it again with the lyrics and called it Original Forbes Fables instead of Fables of Forbes. Now, for whatever reason, that was passed and it got published just with a change of name. So we're going to play you each one of these one by one to see the diversity of the compositions and understand what it was all about. That Montreux video on Goodbye Popa Hat is a ballad. It's not like the rest, it's a slow number. And there's a lot of feeling in that song. I hope the sound is good and we can enjoy it. Ashwin, who is the pianist? Hancock. Sorry?
No, no.
Coming.
Who's the pianist?
Who's the pianist? Sir?
Pianist, Brown Park. Very
Thank you.